Welcome, everyone, to episode 96 of the Phoenix Report. I'm Jack Connor, and with me today is a very talented young singer who I met, I want to say, at the end of last year, or it might have been last summer. You know, I had been recording with some friends of mine, including my buddy Chris Stone, who's a really talented guitarist and producer out of Haines City, which is just, I want to say, about an hour west of Orlando. So, you know, he and I, we were working together, on writing together for a few things, but, you know, he also produced a lot of other artists as well. And one of them is our guest today. She's a young girl who lives in Melbourne, which is, you know, for those of you who don't know, it's on the east coast of Florida in Brevard County. Yeah, very talented young girl. And at one point, you know, Chris was writing her music. She was writing the lyrics. They were also playing like previous material that she had brought in as well. And at one point, Chris approached me and a few other guys about doing some live shows with Leah. And so we decided to do it. And we actually have another one coming up in August. We actually might have two coming up in August. I'm not sure about that. But yeah, I wanted to have her on because I know she's, you know, kind of getting started in her career. And I had originally met her when she was going and singing in open mics at a coffee shop somewhere in Orlando. So it seems like, you know, she and Chris have a pretty unique vision for her music and where she wants to take her career. So I'll just let her talk about it. Please welcome Leah Barrientos.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on. I'm so glad that, you know, we all crossed paths and stuff like that at the time that we did, because I've been wanting to like do this my entire life and play live shows and stuff like that. So the fact that, you know, I actually found the people that will like do that with me is really great. And it's something that I've like looked forward to my whole life. But basically my vision for like what I'm trying to accomplish with my music is I'm very inspired by Evanescence, as like everybody that knows me and that I talk to knows that Amy Lee is my top inspiration. My cat's coming in right now, sorry.
That's all right.
But Amy Lee is the one that I've looked up to since I was like 9 years old, and I'm about to be 25 in November. So that her voice is what really, like, it's what made me want to sing. And I took a lot of technique from her and from their music and with her voice. And I've never had any like vocal training. Sorry, let me get my cat real quick. He's like messing with the bag and stuff.
That's all right. Does he have anything to add on this? Probably not.
I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, that's cool that you say that. I'm old enough to remember when Bring Me to Life was first on the radio, and just there really wasn't anything like it on radio at the time. And it's pretty incredible, especially that first album, that the impact that they've had, and still over 20 years later, people are still digging their stuff.
Yeah, so when that album came out, I think it was 2003, I believe. I was 3 years old.
Yeah.
So that's the crazy part. And then I found them through my cousin actually showed me, I think it was their song Imaginary was the first song that I ever heard by them off that 2003 album. And I was like 9 years old and I was like, that's like ridiculously good. And I never listened to like anything like that before. But when she showed me that and I heard her voice, I was like, that's incredible. Like, she's just ridiculous.
Yeah, in the early 2000s, I remember that there wasn't as many female like hard rock vocalists that were at that, at least at that level of exposure. I mean, there were a lot of in the previous generation, like in the 70s and 80s, you had Heart, you had Fleetwood Mac, you know, with Stevie Nicks and all that. But like there weren't a ton of I mean, by this point, there weren't a lot of hard rock, I guess female hard rock singers that were really making a bunch of waves. I think, you know, maybe Courtney Love before that, you know, during the 90s with the band Hole, and there was the Cranberries, Dolores O'Riordan, but you know, Amy was something unique, and I think she really helped inspire, you know, a whole new generation of of girls who wanted to get into that heavier side. And I mean, without her, I don't think there would be. I mean, I don't know if we have Lacuna Coil without Evanescence. I don't know if we have Lizzie Hale and Hailstorm.
Yeah.
So I think she definitely helped pave the way for a lot of those artists. Flyleaf, Lacey
Yeah.
Mosley, or Lacey Sturm now. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely,
but
Flyleaf is another one of my inspirations for what I'm trying to go for. It's kind of like that alternative grunge. It's not like super like hard metal, but it's kind of, I don't want to call it new metal, but it's like grungy like,
very much so.
yeah.
Very
Yeah.
much so. I had the pleasure of opening for Flyleaf back in 2006
That's amazing.
in one of my first bands in college. We were doing, it was a small club in Tampa.
Hmm.
They were starting to get radio play in Tampa a little bit, and I hadn't really heard of them before. They're like, but I remember the guys in my band were like, dude, we got a gig with this band Flyleaf. They just got back on they had just gotten back from a run in the UK opening up for Stained, so they were definitely on their way up, and I was really impressed by when I saw them, and I remember meeting their bass player. Pat was a really nice guy, and then a couple months later I find out they're on the Family Values tour. So
Yeah.
it was pretty wild to see them get as big as they did. So you said that one of your family members exposed you to Evanescence, and
Yes. It was my cousin. She's only like I believe a year older than me, or maybe
okay,
almost two. So we were very close, like as cousins and stuff like that when I was younger, because I basically grew up like with them. We were super close. But I just remember she used to show me songs. Like we'd be sitting in her room and she'd be showing me different songs, and all I ever really listened to back then was like maybe I don't even know, like Selena Gomez and like all the
okay,
Disney
yeah,
Channel type of stuff when I
hmm
was 9. And then when she showed me that, it was just such a new sound, and I was like, I really like what I'm hearing right now. And I never even thought of getting into like rock music like that at all. Like it kind of
hmm
scared me a little bit when I was when I was younger.
Sure, no,
Um,
I understand that. Well, I mean, you talk about the Disney stuff. Wasn't Camp Rock? Wasn't that a big show? Or
yeah, but that was like
I
very
mean, it's
bubbly.
Jonas Brothers, obviously, but
Yeah.
still, it's like
Yeah.
it's close.
And I mean, my mom grew when I grew up with my mom and stuff like that, she would always play like her 80s music and stuff like that.
hmm
So I've always been kind of in that like realm of rock, but never really like dived into it until I was older.
Right.
She always played like Aerosmith and who'd she like? She liked Queen. I love
Love it.
Queen to this day.
Yes.
Um, who else did she like? I can't, there's so many. Boston, More Than a Feeling is my favorite song.
That's so
Love
good.
that. But
They
yeah,
were great.
yeah. So then when my cousin showed me that, I really liked it, and then I started venturing out onto my own and like finding songs on YouTube and stuff like that. And I only really got into like the heavier stuff, and when I was like probably 14, my freshman year of high school.
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. So obviously Evanescence was huge for you. Did that
Yes.
had you sung before that, like while growing up? Like
Yes.
in plays and that sort of thing.
So my earliest memory of singing is I was in a talent show in kindergarten when I was 6, and I was scared out of my mind. Like I remember it so clearly, and so like I remember those emotions so clearly still to this day, because it was my first ever like it was my first ever like oh shit moment,
Yeah. Yeah. I
like
mean,
there's so many people.
oh, are you kidding? When you're 6 years old, you're on stage in front of a bunch of people. I mean, there are fully grown adults who aren't comfortable with that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I get it.
Yeah, and I just remember I sang that song, like that old song Love, like L is for the way you look at me. I sang that song, and I was in this like really pretty dress because my mom dressed me up like so
Oh.
cute for this for no reason. And so I get up there and I'm singing, and it's an auditorium full of like the elementary school kids and like their
hmm
parents. My mom's over with her like VHS camcorder like
Oh
crying her
yeah.
eyes. And
Oh.
I just remember towards the end of the song, I was looking at everybody and I had just like almost started crying my eyes out. I remember I just like kind of almost broke down. I finished the song, but you could tell that I was like crying, like almost crying. And I
Just
told
nerves building up. That's what
yes,
that was.
Yes. And I told myself after that performance, because I went to my family and I was like crying. And I told myself from that day, even though I was so young, but I was like, I'm never gonna sing in front of people again,
Oh,
ever. And I kept that vow until I was 16.
really? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember what it is? Was it more than just the nerves? Did you just at that point did you just not feel comfortable with all those people watching you, or
I think it mainly came down to the anxiety of people just having their eyes on me and stuff like
yeah,
that. And if I was ever like in a crowd or like around people, if I saw them like have a different expression or even slightly like laugh or like I heard something that didn't sound like, approval, I guess, in my voice,
yeah?
I would like stop and I'd be like, no, they're laughing at me.
I know exactly how that feels. I mean, especially when you're young, when you're in middle school and high school, it almost seems like if you stand out in any way, you run
Mm,
that risk of people either making fun of you or not taking you seriously or whatever it is, and that's a tough thing for a kid to deal with.
yeah.
So, I mean, it's tough as an adult to deal with it sometimes, but but
Is
especially at that age. But
yeah.
so it was 16 when you decided to start singing again. Were you thinking in terms of like, were you thinking back then in terms of like being in a band or writing your own music? Like, did you have an idea of like sort of what the end goal was even back then?
Yeah, so as scared as I was to like put myself out there with my voice and stuff like that, I was always singing like for my mom and stuff like that, and from my grandma and my dad as well. Like I was always singing, just wouldn't show it to like many family members and stuff. And I used to write stories as well, or like I tried to write lyrics when I was younger. Like if we were just driving in the car, I would have like a notebook and I would just write stupid, silly little things. But eventually, when I was in middle school, that turned into short stories and like I wrote a book, not a book, but like Wattpad. But I was really into like all the Wattpad stories, so I wrote like fan fictions and stuff. But that was like my intro into writing kind of right there. And then in high school, it moved to poetry. And I have a whole notebook of stuff that I've written through like high school. And then when I looked back on it later on, I was just like, hold on, this could potentially be like lyrics at
Mm-hmm.
some point. And then I was like, okay, let me see what I can do with like writing songs, and then that's how that came to be. But when I was 16, I'd always wanted to be in a band. Like when I found all those heavier songs when I was like 14, I was like, I would love to like be up there because that's when I started going to concerts. And I was just like, it was very inspiring for me to see those people up there. And then I was just like, okay, that's where I want to be one day. And so I always knew that I wanted to pursue it and like be in a band one day, but I was always scared, too scared to like ever reach out to people or like try to figure out how to get the resources for that. But I always knew
Yeah.
that I wanted it. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like taking that first step can be the hardest because I've spoken to a lot of people who even when they're younger or even guys who are older now who say, man, I would really like I can play, I can sing, I could do this. I'd love to get into a band, but I don't know how to reach out and thankfully social media has made the world a much smaller place and thankfully
Mhm.
there are avenues to reach out to other musicians and there are websites like Bandmix and even Craigslist, for example. I mean,
Yeah.
granted, Craigslist is you never know what you're going to get with Craigslist, but it's a start. So and
Sure.
every now and then it works out. But how did you and Chris Stone get together? How did you guys first meet?
So I joined the Orlando Musicians page on Facebook. And I believe I joined it even though I know I don't like live over there anymore, but I still consider myself like from Orlando. So I figured let me
Yeah,
just go and join it and see what I can find because it's only an hour away from me. So if I
yeah. And Melbourne is still technically in the Orlando area. I think it's still technically Central Florida. So it's close.
Yeah, it's not the drive like sometimes is even like 40 minutes like at night if I'm like driving there late at night or driving home from somewhere it's like 40 minutes. So to me
Yeah.
that's not a super long drive. So I was like let me join this group and I had a song in mind that I wanted to work on and it was what I wanted to be like my first single, but it didn't end up working out that way. But I had a song that I wanted to be like very shoegaze, and I posted in there looking for people that, were experienced in shoegaze and like that type of sound. And someone I think tagged Chris in it. And they were like, "Oh, Chris Stone is your guy for this." And I was like, "Okay, let me go ahead and send him a message, add him as a friend." And I sent him my idea for the song and what I was looking for in a track, and he instantly like had a vision in mind and like came up with something, and he sent me something maybe a few days later. He was like, "Tell me how this sounds and if you like it." And it was like almost exactly what I wanted. Like it was amazing. I was like, that's so close to what I was like looking for, and
Yeah.
it sounds amazing. Um that song still isn't finished yet, but it's definitely gonna be in the works for what I'm working on. So,
Definitely, definitely. Shoegaze is one of those categories that I know Chris is a really big fan of that type of sound.
mhm.
Now for those that might not know what shoegaze is or what that means, how would you explain that to them?
I would say that shoegaze is very instrument based. The vocals definitely don't play a huge part in shoegaze. It definitely is very prominent with the guitar sound, and
Hmm.
like they have a lot of, I feel like they have a lot of pedals and stuff like that with different sounds in their guitars and stuff like that. It's very dreamy in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd
It's
say ambient is a good way to describe.
ambient. That's a
Yeah,
good word. Yeah. The vocals, like they're there, but they're not like super prominent, and it's not
yeah,
something that, most songs rely on vocals, but with shoegaze, it's more instrumental based, and I really like that. So,
nice. So yeah, I mean that ended up being a great match in terms of Chris. I know he can play a lot of different styles, but I know that is something that he's really gravitated towards. And
yes.
so I mean yeah, he's obviously when I was working with him, he really sung your praises quite a bit, and he's like, you've got to listen to this girl, and she's just got such a great voice. And so yeah, I mean, and we heard the stuff you did with him. It was really impressive, and I remember talking to you about this because I know there were some songs that you recorded and had produced before you met Chris.
Mhm.
Who
Yes.
who were you working with back then?
So that's my friend Dean. I met him through open mics over in Brevard.
Okay.
I first saw him do an open mic at Bula Kava Bar over in Cocoa Beach, and I believe I reached out to him after that, or like got in contact with him, and I was like, "Hey, I have a song in mind, which was my first song, that I released, A Violent Kind of Love. It was R&B, which is like one of my second favorite genres to sing."
Hmm.
And I reached out to him because I found the beat for that one. I bought the licensing for on YouTube. And I had my eye on that beat since 2018. And I had always wanted to like write to it and put that out. And so when I finally sat down one day and I was like, let me see if I can like come up with something for this. So I sat down, I wrote to the beat on YouTube, and I wrote that song in like an hour. And I reached out to Dean, and he was also starting to like come up with a studio and stuff like that in his house and everything. And he has songs released as well. And he was like, "Hey, if you help me be on this song, or if I can get your vocals on this song, I can help you record and like mix and master the song that you're trying to do." And I was like, "Yeah, of course." And so we kind of did that trade-off and stuff like that. And we tracked that song. I think it was one take. I tracked my first song in one take, and we were like, "Hey, that's it." And that's how it came out. So what you're hearing in that recording is just one take.
Wow.
Which I'm very proud of when it comes to
Yeah,
that.
that's not very common at all. So that's impressive.
But he definitely helped kickstart my passion for that, because once I released that song, I was like, people are like actually listening, and that's what made me want to do even more. And then I did Empty Home, which was my second single with him as well. And then after that song came out is when I found Chris, and then that's when I worked on You Are Me with him, and now that one's out. So yeah.
Excellent. Very cool. Well, yeah, I know it was earlier this year that we did our first show with you. It was at this little festival. I forget the name of the venue, but it was in Melbourne. It
Mm,
was like this coffee shop. I think it was closing down. I forget the name of it, but yeah, I remember we probably did about like a 20 to 30 minute set, and it went over really well.
yes, yes, it was a space swap. It was called Space Swap. It was
Yes, that was it.
their hundredth show, farewell show. It was like I think they had done that was like the hundredth like event that they had done in the years that they were open, and they were like, we're going all day from 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. They had bands performing all day
Yeah, that
long.
was it. Space Swap. I remember now. So,
Yes.
yeah, we had gone there, and I think our set was like in the mid afternoon, but like we stuck around. There were a lot of different bands and a lot of different acts there. It was really something else. It was definitely a big event that they had there. A lot of young kids, in the Brevard area were coming out, and that area has always surprised me about how many musicians and music fans are really out there on the coast. It's definitely a hidden gem as far as
Yes.
music scenes within Florida. But yeah, we had a great time with it. How was it for you doing that first live performance, doing your own material, and a mixture of covers that we threw in here and there? Because obviously, you said as a kid that you had a lot of stage fright and just you weren't necessarily comfortable with that. What was that experience like for you?
So, I was panicking bad. And I've talked to Chris about this like recently because we were doing the show in August as well, and I was just like, if you remember anything about Space Swap, I was panicking outside of that back door before we were about to go on. I was having a full-on panic attack. But
Oh,
other than that, it was just like, it was amazing. It was my first time singing with a band backing me and stuff like that. So I had never performed with live instruments before. It had always been tracks and stuff like that from YouTube. Um, so I was mainly just worried that I wasn't going to be able to hear myself. And when I can't hear
yeah,
myself, obviously you go like off tune or like, you can't hear what you're singing, so you don't know if you're singing the right note. And I was so scared that was going to happen because my voice is not super like powerful
right.
when I'm not doing the higher notes, it's not super powerful. So that's what I was nervous for in the beginning. Um, but when I got out there, it's like it just went away. Like it happens every single time I sing anywhere, even for open mics. Like I'll panic and like be freaking out backstage or like 5 minutes before I go up. And then when I get out there and I start singing, it's just completely goes away.
I know exactly what you're talking about because and you and I had talked about this in some of the practices that we did before that. The thing about for one thing, whenever you're in a situation like that, yes, it can be nerve wracking, but a good thing to remember is that, oh, I'm in control of the situation.
Hmm.
Like you have the opportunity to get people to actually listen to you and be like, whether you like it, don't like it, whatever it is, I'm the one with the microphone. I,
Right.
I I'm the one. I'm trying to say something to you, and it's very therapeutic in that way. So, honestly, I remember going on doing that set with you, and by the time we got on stage, you didn't look very panicked at all.
Yeah.
There were moments like in between the songs where you were kind of talking to the crowd a little bit. You were working the crowd, and I was just sitting there. I'm like, all right, that's my girl. So
Yeah.
so that was great.
To be honest with that, when I was talking to the crowd, I blacked out. Like I don't remember saying that like at all. I'm so serious. Like when I was trying to hype them up because we covered Bring Me to Life by Evanescence, and I was trying
Hmm.
to hype them up before and like get them to do the Wake Me Up and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I don't remember saying that like at all. And then I watched the videos back after and I was like, okay, they actually like listened. Like they actually
Yeah.
did it.
Yeah, it was like, I mean, it's like an out of body experience sometimes. It can feel that way. But
Yes.
I know early on in my career, what I caught myself was doing would be talking too much in between
Mm,
songs. And I try to say, I'm like, that's a nervous reaction. I shouldn't do that. Shouldn't do that. Shouldn't joke around too much on stage. And so I kind of ratcheted that back a little bit. But yeah, no, I thought you did great, as far as working the crowd like that.
Thank you.
And the band, for those that don't know, it's myself on bass, but it's Chris Stone on guitar, and it's also our buddy Rambo Miller on guitar. Another friend of mine, Gabe Vermund, is on keys, and he also is a really good guitar player as well. But I think he's mainly playing keys for our shows. And Rigale Forte on drums, who is a really fantastic drummer. So it's yeah, there's about six of us all together when we go on stage. So it's I know I would feel a little more self-conscious going on by myself and just singing to tracks.
Hmm.
So I mean, did it feel a little bit more comfortable knowing that you had all of us there behind you backing it up?
Yes, absolutely it did. Like, I think that that's definitely what helped me be able to talk to the crowd like I did, even if I don't remember like doing it. Um, but being able to like I think it's more knowing that those people, like the audience that was watching and stuff, knowing that their eyes weren't just on me. Like I might have the mic, but I know that they're also watching everybody else that's with me.
Exactly.
And that
Yep.
that definitely helped a lot. So
Absolutely. It's different than like doing like stand-up comedy or something where it's just you. So
yes,
I
I would never.
yeah, no, so it's very freeing in that sense. But I know that the next show that we have coming up with you is August 17th,
Yes,
and that's a battle of the bands at this place in Cocoa, the Joint Cava Bar or the Joint
correct.
Cava Lounge, I think. And do we know yet about like who else is in this or is part
Yeah.
of this show?
Yeah, so basically there's a lot of bands that, are participating in this. So many that they had to split it between 4 rounds on 4 different days. But on our date we have I believe in total there's 6 bands in total, including us. So they're all local from around Brevard. I think one might be from Orlando that's competing on the day with us. But I believe, yeah, there's 5 other bands, and then we're the sixth one on August 17th. So we're round three, and then whoever gets through that goes to the finals, which will be sometime, I think they said like in October or November, somewhere around there, will be the final round. And then whoever people choose from the final round is who gets a cash prize. So.
Gotcha. Do you know do you know who is behind the contest or like I don't know who's running it necessarily.
Yeah, it's this I'm gonna look on my phone because I don't remember how to pronounce the name sometimes. But I believe it's actually run by these two guys that they're kind of young actually, but they put on events around Brevard. They're called Brazen Ember Productions.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're the ones that are hosting it, and they host shows at like small venues like in Melbourne and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
yeah, they're cool. They're cool guys.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Did they say in terms of like who moves on in the contest? Is there like a place people can vote?
So it's audience-based voting and as well as judges. So
Gotcha.
I actually just judged the first round of the Battle of the
Oh,
Bands.
really?
Yeah, because they posted on their Instagram and they were needing a second judge, and I was like, "Am I allowed to do it?" Like, I wasn't sure if I could, and they were like, "Yeah, just as long as you're not singing that same day, you can judge it." And I was like, "Okay, then yes, count me in. I'll
There you go.
definitely." And so I was there all day. Also, sorry, my dog might bark because my fiance is gonna get home, so if
That's
the
fine.
dog barks really loud, I'm sorry. Um, but yeah, I was there from 3 o'clock to like 9 o'clock, 10:30, because everyone had like 30 minute sets, and then in between they took like 30 minutes to set up the different bands and everything. Um, but yeah, the bands were really good. We sent through a band called Burn, and they're younger guys, but they like shocked me. They like blew my mind a little bit because I
Okay.
was not expecting that sound to come out of them. And then the guitarist was like, he was ridiculous, and he was maybe like 17 years old, and he was just like, going crazy with the fingers on
Nice.
the guitar. And they were really good. They definitely deserve to get to the finals. So I'm excited to see who we play with.
Excellent. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it too. I think it'll be a lot of fun, and I know the other guys feel the same way. Anytime we can get on stage, it's a good time. So yeah, we're
Yes.
looking forward to being part of it. So where can people find your material online? Like, what are some of your links? Go ahead and plug those right away.
So, you can find all my music on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music. Basically, any streaming platform has my songs and my originals that I've put out so far. There's only four, but there's definitely more coming soon. I'm trying to work on a EP to be put out there. But
Yeah,
as for social media goes, leahbarrientos.music is Instagram, and then I think it's leah.barrientos on TikTok. Lee Barrientos on YouTube. Basically, if you look up that first and last name, you should be able to find me on everything. So,
sounds good. I'll definitely post the links here in the description. And I know that Chris has approached. I know he's approached you and me and a bunch of other people about some other projects that he wants to put together. Streetlight interference is, I believe, what he's calling it. So I'm sure when that comes out, we'll be promoting that again as well.
yes,
But
definitely.
yeah, there are a lot of good things in store. So this is cool. No, I appreciate you coming on and telling people about yourself and coming. Hopefully everyone who's listening, if you're able to, come out and see us on August 17th
Yes,
and vote
definitely.
for us.
Yes, vote for us.
Yeah. Thanks once again to Leah Barrientos for coming on the show here and telling her story. She's a very talented girl, a very great singer. I think we can expect a lot of big things from her in the future. And speaking of which, I want to take this time to announce that Leah's band, which I am in, we actually have a name now, a new band name. We will be known as Scarlett Eclipse. And with that in mind, Scarlett Eclipse has a few shows coming up. Starting on Sunday, August 4th, the band will be playing at Uncle Lou's Entertainment Hall in Orlando. I will not actually be a part of that show. I have a show of my own. I'll announce that in a little bit that same night. So as of this recording, Scarlet Eclipse does not have any social media, but I will have links to all of Leah's social media here in the description. So make sure you go check her out, follow her on Instagram, Spotify, and TikTok. I do have a few other upcoming events that I want to tell you guys about. First, on Friday, July 19th, I will be doing an acoustic duo with Gabe Vermund. You might know Gabe as my partner in Friends of the 90s. He and I started that band together. We've played together, in a bunch of other projects as well. He's been on the show before. So Gabe and I will be doing an acoustic duo at Fish on Fire in Orlando, which is it's just Fish on Fire is a restaurant that's right near the Orlando airport, just a few miles away. Make sure you come out and check that out. On Friday, July 26th, I will be filling in on lead vocals for a really cool band called Run for Cover. We will be playing at the Whiskey and Sand Lake in Orlando. Make sure you check that out. On Sunday, August 4th, I will not be playing with Scarlet Eclipse at Uncle Lou's Entertainment Hall, but I will have an acoustic show of my own, just a solo acoustic appearance at Fish on Fire once again. So make sure you check that out. Sunday, August 4th, from about 7 p.m. to 11. So yeah, make sure you check that out if you get the chance. Then I will be playing with Scarlet Eclipse on Saturday, August 17th, at the Joint Cava Lounge in Cocoa, Florida, which is for the Battle of the Bands that we mentioned here in this interview. And much later in the year, on December 14th, Saturday, December 14th, I will be playing with New Divide, our Lincoln Park tribute band, that we will be playing at Sailfish Brewing Company in Fort Pierce, Florida. Make sure you check out my link tree and my social media because I'll always be updating it whenever I have a new show coming up or a new event that I'm doing. It's a really exciting time. I'm glad to be playing out live again this much, whether it's on my own, whether it's through various other projects, whether it's backing up a talented young artist like Leah. It's an exciting time. So I'm glad to be back doing what I love and seeing some of you guys out there in the crowd. Make sure you follow me on X and Instagram at jackxconnor. Like me on Facebook at facebook.com/jackconnormusic. Feel free to check out my link tree there in the description. That'll have all my various social media links. You can always email me or at jackconnorpodcast@gmail.com for any kind of booking inquiry or any kind of comment. You can always leave a comment here, whether you're listening on YouTube, wherever you're getting your podcasts. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave a review, whatever you need to do. If there's a notification bell, make sure you click on that as well. So I always appreciate you guys tuning in. This has been the Phoenix Report. I'm Jack Connor. You guys rock on. Have a great day.